Welcome on in. The fall season is in full swing as we finally saw some gridiron action in week 0. This is the Colorado Prep Show presented by Upswing. I'm the editor-in-chief of Colorado Prep's Dan Mormon. We've got a great show today. Alongside with me is the esteemed editor-in-chief of Mile High Sports Magazine, Doug Ottewell. Doug, we got some big stuff going this week.
Oh, man. It was exciting to have high school sports back. It was just like you wake up, you get to start seeing scores, you're hearing names, like nothing better. It's the best time of year.
And we're going to have a great magazine, brand new magazine to throw in people's hands, which has some great high school content as well as some great Denver Broncos content.
That's right. A lot of the guys that we featured in that issue had big performances already this past weekend.
That's right. And joining the show this week, the sports director at KKTV in Colorado Springs, Jessica Mendoza. Jessica, welcome. Hopefully this is the first of many, although I know you're due for some well-deserved time off here in the near future.
Yeah, you can't tell right now, maybe, but I'm 8 months pregnant, so going on maternity leave here in a little bit, but so glad I'm able to take in a little bit of the high school football and high school athletics scene before I go on leave. And like you guys said, it was a great start to the season. We got CSU Pueblo coming up, lots of stuff going on in the Springs and Southern Colorado that we're looking forward to this fall as well.
That's right. We have a lot of football talk to get into. As we start every show, we're going to go kind of with what's on the upswing in our world, just things that we've noticed through the week. Dougie, lead us off. What caught your eye in week 0 for high school football?
Well, I mean, one thing as far as especially in the 5A classifications, everything kind of held true other than maybe Columbine. Columbine, I think, had a kind of disappointing performance. Word on the street is they're a little bit down, maybe not quite as big as they typically are, which, that Andy Lowry offense is dependent on big uglies and a lot of the deception at the line of scrimmage. I'll never count the Rebels out. I think, with a new team, maybe some a little bit hit by graduation, give Andy Lowry a few weeks and they'll be right there in the mix. But I think other than that, everybody else in 5A kind of held serve, and it looked like the powers are still the powers right now.
Jessica, you shot me a text late in the hours of Friday night. I figured this would be on your agenda. What caught your eye? What's on your upswing?
Yeah, I was like, hey, you got to tell me who this kid is with Sand Creek. This junior running back, Ethan Mangrum, scored 4 rushing touchdowns, almost 200 yards on the ground. Apparently, he had a pretty good year last year, but he's already got a 4th of the amount of touchdowns that he had last year. I talked to the athletic director the next day as well, and he said they're expecting some really good and big things from Ethan, just as far as the team as a whole over there at Sand Creek, as they went on to beat Denver East and start their season 1-0 on Friday night. So Ethan Mangrum is a name we're going to be saying a lot of this year, and I'm just excited to see what he'll continue to do this fall.
In the Springs, District 49 is definitely something to keep our eye on, given some of the early results. On mine, I was able to take in number 1 Cherry Creek, just looking dominant in a win against Regis Jesuit on Friday. And we didn't get to see a lot of them last year in the 5A state championship game because he got hurt in the first half. But guys, Jaden Fox, Cherry Creek running back, is just otherworldly. It was I believe it was the second quarter. Cherry Creek is backed up 1st and 10 on the 6-yard line. They hand the ball to him, 1 cut, and no one had a shot at catching him. He's going to power the Bruins to a great year. Also, congratulations to Cherry Creek coach and voice of the Denver Broncos, Dave Logan, for win number 342. Ties him with number 2 all-time in state history with Kent Denver's Scott Yates. He has a chance to solidify that number 2 spot on in that record on Friday. The Bruins are in Florida, but we're going to get into that and so much more. Before we get into football, we want to, of course, thank our partners at Upswing and the Upswing Foundation for everything they do for youth sports. If kids are looking for recovery, Upswing helps young athletes prevent injuries, bounce back faster, and keep progressing towards their dreams. Scholarship and availability is a big priority for them. For many kids, Upswing is the first time that they get to find elite coaching and facilities within their reach, and it helps them become better athletes. It gives them the chance to train like champions while building discipline, confidence, and resilience. Learn more at upswingfoundation.org. And with that, we're going to bring in the face, as he says, of Upswing, our friend Jermaine Stafford, who was a great addition to the show last week. He's back with us to talk some football. And of all of us, we're in You're in the Mile High Sports Studio at number 38. Look at those digs.
Yes, it looks good in here. I'm alone. I'm here. I'm alone. Thank you for having me today, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into it. Everyone, of course, was looking to see what number one Cherry Creek was going to do. They end up beating Regis Jesuit 45-10. Scott Yates, Dave Logan ties Scott Yates for number 2 all time. But the big takeaway is just the result of the game, guys. It was a 28-0 game with 6 minutes left in the first quarter. And by all accounts, it looked like Cherry Creek was just going to run away. Dave Logan eventually pulled everyone back in the second half. Final, of course, was 45-10. But by all accounts, is this a Cherry Creek team that's just so much better than everyone else? Is Regis maybe a little down? Doug, you alluded to Columbine being down. But what's our big takeaway from Regis Jesuit's dominant week 1 win?
Well, I look at it, I don't think there's a team in the state, and this is said with all due respect to a lot of really good coaches. I don't know that there's a team in the state that is better prepared than Cherry Creek week in, week out. I think Dave Logan's experience, but not just his experience, but he's always got a really good staff. And I think, talking to him a little bit at Broncos camp, you're talking about their summer program this season, some of the athletes they have coming back. I mean, it helps when you got a lot of kids coming back from a state championship team. I just don't think you'll find many teams that are better prepared. And look, Regis is a top 10 program. I mean, according to our own rankings, which you post on coloradopreps.com every week, Regis is right up there. So I think it says more about, Cherry Creek and being ready and having that experience to come out in the opener. I wouldn't count Regis out either this season, but I think it just speaks to the level of preparation, and that kind of thing when it comes to Cherry Creek specifically. And obviously, they're good anyway, but I think year in, year out, they're going to be good in week 1.
Jermaine, you're paying attention to these guys. What'd you see from Creek that has everyone thinking that this, again, just might be a dominant run to another state title?
It's the tradition for those guys, right? It's a stand-on business approach. Week 1, I first like to give it up to Regis. Regis steps into that gauntlet, right? This week 1, they get Cherry Creek. So many schools dodged that game. And if you look at the schedules, that game was scheduled to be in a different week. They actually moved it up. Cherry Creek has a game. They're hitting the road. So it was tough for Regis to jump into that game. And they did. They stood tall. Dave Logan, he brings in the same staff every year. They have the same fitness people and the same SAC program in the summer every single year. Those guys understand week 1 is the start of something where it's a process of gold, right? Those guys step up to conveyor belt. To at the end, they all hold up the gold together, right? They look to do that every week. I don't look at Regis being down this year. I believe they still belong in that top 10. I mean, if you look at it, word on the street, it's truly, they have half of their team aren't even driving at this point. Right? They have truly, look at that roster. It will blow your mind how many sophomores and freshmen and sophomores on that varsity team. So when you look at that aspect of it in week 1, running up against a giant like Cherry Creek, they were out, man. But you'll look to see Cherry Creek roll the same way over the first couple of weeks in state. Out of state, they will go and they'll play some big games. But in state, this is what they do year in and year out.
And Jess, we're going to get to Pine Creek's game against Valor here in a few minutes, but Cherry Creek does have Pine Creek on the schedule. I think they make their way down to D20 Stadium at the end of September. I'm not looking ahead for Pine Creek, but for you, what are you looking for when a team like Cherry Creek is going to come down and take on a team in your market like that?
Yeah, well, Dan, as you kind of ask about, what are we thinking about these teams so far? This was week 0, right? Like, this is like teams are just getting started. Sometimes it takes to week 2, unfortunately, sometimes 3 for some of these teams to really show their true colors. And obviously that's not going to work so well in the long run. But I just think, you see some of these really early games and especially some teams with new coaches. You're talking about Pine Creek. So I think that, it just takes a little bit for some of these programs to really get rolling. And when Cherry Creek comes down to Colorado Springs, that D20 is going to be packed for that game. Hopefully Pine Creek will have more of kind of their personality, and they'll have their team roles figured out a little bit better because they have had 3 coaches in the last 3 years. However, with talking to their new head coach, this is a high energy guy coming in from out of state. He's got a fun personality. So I think if he can kind of feed that to his team a little bit, and start to get his things under start to teach his team exactly what he wants them to be this season, I think that by week 2 we'll really have a good idea of what the Eagles will look like this year.
And if we want to get into high energy guys, I mean, from a head coaching standpoint, that's certainly what we saw at D20, despite the rain.
Downpour.
I mean, it was, I think you were somewhere you were at Sand Creek. I don't know if you bounced over to Vista Ridge, but for those of us that were inside of District 20 Stadium, it was a torrential downpour. Didn't phase a guy like new Valor coach Mike Sanford. I mean, when his team took control of the game there late in the first half, and we have this video clip. I think it was a big special teams play that resulted in a touchdown. But take a look at what Mike Sanford is all about when the conditions are not in your favor.
Love that.
36-14 is the final as Valor Christian gets its first win with Mike Sanford as the head coach. Dougie, you were hitting me with some texts as you were watching that one on Altitude TV. What was your big takeaway from I told our friend Marcus Hill at the Gazette he had to call Pine Creek the 719 Eagles. So what's your takeaway from the 303 Eagles?
I mean, look, you got to be impressed with Mike Sanford's debut. I think more importantly, though, you look at a kid like Cash Spence and how he fared in Sanford's new offense. Obviously, it's going to be a high-flying offense. And I've heard people talk, and we talked a little bit about Cash was actually one of the guys that will be featured in the new issue of Mile High Sports. He's not a huge kid. I mean, he's obviously extremely athletic. He's fast. He's got quickness, all the things that, Jermaine knows a lot about, but he's not big. And if he were bigger, and I think Jermaine, you alluded to this last week, you'd be talking to him about him as a high level Division I prospect. But the numbers that he just put up in week 1 in the rain leads me to believe that we might be talking about him as a high Division I prospect anyway. I mean, he balled out, and I think this offense is going to do great things for a kid like Cash Spence.
And he just does that every week, right? He's done that every week. He's been around for year in and year out. Just to go back to coach, think about what you do in the summertime for games like this, right? For Pine Creek, you're being pushed. The narrative is let's go punch him in the face, right? This is big bad Valor. Here they come. We're going to punch him in the face. With Coach Sanford, their narrative is adversity. We have to face adversity. They're going to come out and try to punch us in the face. And then here comes a downpour. Now, no one has ground, right? No one can put their feet in the ground to actually fight, and you have to play football. And you alluded to it in week 1. Everyone is off balance. It's eat the ball. Offense doesn't matter, right? It's eat the ball, eat the ball, eat the ball. That's easier to do defense than offense in week 1. But, yeah, Cash Spence, the newly committed to Colorado School of Mines, Cash Spence, if that doesn't tell you how smart the young man is as well, not just an athlete, but a student athlete that's just recently committed there. You think about what they can do with that offense. We haven't seen all the skill guys that side of the ball can have. But once again, I'm an old Avery Anderson, JoJo Diamond type of Pine Creek kid. I tell you, they will be around when it comes time. I mean, it will be huge for that Pine Creek program. But yeah, Valor has that narrative going right now. Adversity, fight the adversity. And obviously when the rain pours, they were able to stand up.
And then let's shift gears, sticking kind of with that Pine Creek theme as it is. We had a longtime coordinator, assistant coach from Pine Creek, Matt Wibbles, who made his way over to Vista Ridge. A lot of people thought that culture and that mindset was going to transfer over. Maybe didn't see it as much last year in his first year. But Jess, was that a game that you were able to hit while you were kind of patrolling the eastern side of Colorado Springs, Vista Ridge against Columbine?
Yeah, so that's the game actually where I spent most of my time Friday night. And it was definitely coming down very heavy there when it comes to the rain. Just a soggy Vista Ridge field there. But yeah, I mean, you talk about like his mentalities. Another head coach that is just so excited to be taking on another year as a head coach. He's really excited about this year's group. And leading up to that game, we did talk to him, just about how tough of a first week opponent Columbine was going to be. And, he wasn't shying away from that first week 0 challenge one bit. He said it was going to take defense, and we're out there. We watched them run in that first touchdown, 60 plus yards. The crowd's going crazy. Then they come up with 2 stops on defense, and you start kind of looking around the sidelines. And I'm actually on Columbine's side, and they're starting to look at each other like, what is going on here? Like, this is not the team we expected to show up and play. So they looked pretty stunned. And it was really exciting just to see Vista Ridge's reaction running into the locker room, soaking wet at halftime, but knowing that, they really had a chance to start their season 1-0 and win this game. And, they held on, and it was really just good to see that they were able to continue with that same mentality through this entire wet, cold game and finish out for the win. So a very exciting game to see and kind of be there for, and I'm looking forward to see what Vista Ridge will do next week.
And you can't wipe the smile off Matt Wibble's face. You shot us some video. Here's Coach post game after maybe the biggest win of his head coaching career.
Yeah, it feels really good. Columbine that's how you measure yourself in the state of Colorado. And Andy has a great program, and they're tough kids. I tell you what, Antonio took the kickoff back. That got us off on the right track. That was a big play. Our defense played stellar. That's a tough offense to grind it out. And then Colton came in, our quarterback, first game for us, made a lot of big completions. I think it goes on our O-line. Our O-line did a great job tonight. They're 4 or 5 inches shorter per man. We're not as big as they are, but they fought their butts off. It was fun to watch the game. You play in the weather. You don't expect this in August, but it was what it was. And it's a program-defining win.
All right.
Dougie, you've seen a lot of Columbine football in your day. Last time they lost to an in-state opponent to start the season was 2014. What does Andy Lowry need to do to get his guys back on track? Because they really get no time off. This week they go into a big one with Thunder Ridge and their new head coach, Jay Madden.
Well, and I would add to that, your in-state comment is dropped down into classification. So you're not even playing within 5A, and those guys came out and beat them. I think it speaks to, look, any team that's going to face Columbine has trouble because it's like playing Air Force in college football. That offense, that single wing, sleight of hand, a lot of deception, that's tough for any team to play against. Ask Dave Logan. I mean, he and Lowry have had some great battles, and a lot of the equalizer is that strange kind of quirky option offense that Andy Lowry has run for years. So you have to give Vista Ridge a lot of credit for standing up to that alone. But I think, when you go back to the Columbine side, I do go back to, hey, this is a team that requires a great offensive line and typically speaking, an athletic quarterback and a couple bruising running backs, going all the way back to 1999 when they won their first state championship. I mean, that is the recipe for Andy Lowry football teams. So I think, maybe they're down a little in personnel, maybe they're down a little in size, but also that offense takes a lot of time for chemistry. So again, to Jessica's point, which is a great one, so much changes in high school football season from week 0 to, on the verge of the state playoffs, that a good team's always going to find its way back. And I think Andy Lowry is going to fall into that category. He might not have his best roster to start the season this year compared to other years, but he's a great coach. And I think they'll be back. It's just a matter of time and getting that chemistry.
Jermaine, last week you identified Columbine as a team that we hadn't really talked about too much in the preview, but you reminded us that this was a team you can't discount. It's probably unfair to say that you're worried, but what are you looking forward to seeing out of Columbine as it looks to rebound from a week 1 loss?
Just Monday. They line back up and Monday happens, right? For those guys, they've lost 1 or 2 games in great runs with that history. It happens. We keep pounding this on, but as Jessica alluded to, it's week 1, 0 week. So you're going to have that issue with your play. the weather. The coach alluded to it. It's August and it was poor out there. And on the other side of it, you just have to look at sometimes you get beat. It's football. You will be beat. And that VR team is loaded with speed. We haven't spoke about them with speed. If you look on the other side in the spring, they are always right there in the relays, 4x1 relays and 4x4 relays. Those are some big, strong, skill guys. And you could see that out there. They were ready to play. As the coach alluded to up front, they were small, but that speed and toughness was the difference. I don't think any particular issue will occur with Columbine moving forward. I just know they have to look at how do we sustain when those teams come at us, because they know they can have a program type of win, breaking win with us. So can't get them together.
Yeah, I don't think any of us would be super worried about Columbine after 1 week if this was something that sustained itself. If they lose 2 of their first 4 or something like that, then that might raise a red flag or two. But Andy Lowry is certainly one guy that has earned the benefit of the doubt in his career. It was a letdown performance, but I'm sure that they'll rebound. You know who did not have a letdown performance this week was legend quarterback DJ Bordeaux. And maybe the biggest blowout of the week is legend beat up on Fruita Monument a little bit. But is this guy, we've heard so much about him. We haven't seen him in years, not since he was playing for Thunder Ridge way back in the day. And of course, he left the state. But is DJ maybe living up to all the hype that he carried when he came back into Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to put up 5 touchdowns in your first game back,
first half,
yeah, that's a pretty big statement. I mean, is he going to do that against the Valors or the Cherry Creeks of 5A? Probably not, but you can't knock a kid for coming out and shining. I mean, he was amazing. And I think that the interesting thing about him is that we really haven't seen him. What we knew about him before is that he was a very great young prospect, went away, came back, and now, everybody's talking about him as potentially and probably the best quarterback in the state. And to come out and live up to that hype, I don't care who your opponent is, that says something about the kid. And I think you pair that with the athleticism, the really good defense, the speed that Legend has. That's a team that, they're looks like they're going to be right back there again.
Jermaine, go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, I was just going to jump on it. Last week, James, he spoke about DJ being accepted, right? We had that conversation about a new guy. Here comes a new kid in. Well, I think he put that to sleep and made that very quiet conversation. And the way he did it is just the way he came. And if you were at that game, and I was at the game, just the strikes. I think he had 2 incompletions, maybe 1 or 2 incompletions, but the strikes and the way he led that team, you will find out where Legend, there are more skill guys that have been playing football there for 2 years, 3 years that we didn't even know about because of that offense. Mm-hmm. It was a sparked offense. Does he have to have 5 touchdowns per week? He doesn't have to have 5 touchdowns per week. You're not going to look for him to actually have to have that. What he has to do every week is just line up and control that offense and his team and that speed and the defense. I mean, if you look at the stats, he had 4 catches from his wideout for 2 touchdowns. One was almost a 3rd touchdown by Kellen Marchand, who's going to be featured in that Colorado Preps next week. Kellen Marchand, if you see the catches he had, 4 catches, 2 touchdowns. One was questionable call at the line.
It was week 0 for the officials too. I'm going to say that.
It was a couple of those, like the sideline judge calling timeout. Touchdowns from behind was very odd. But the strikes that he threw on those slants, just putting the ball in the spots that when he gets against the Cherry Creek and the Valor, those are the type of plays that you're going to look for him to have. He doesn't have to have 5 touchdowns per game. He just needs to be a part of that team. They have a tremendous amount of support on the sideline. What I was interested to see was how would they celebrate? How would they each touchdown, how many chest bumps, who would run over to who, how's the sideline looking with the coaching staff? It was a full team, totally different from last 2 years I've seen of a Legend program.
What kind of defense is more suited to slow a guy like that down? I look at I look at their schedule and a couple of programs that I always see, and we can even throw Columbine and Grandview in there, but teams that typically have tough, big physical defenses, Pine Creek, Fountain Fort Carson jump out to me. Are those the kind of defenses that can slow a guy like that down? Maybe go in, get a sack, get a hit on them, and just put that idea in their head? Or do you need those athletes on the back end to really help slow down what is turning out to be a very accurate passing attack?
I personally feel like your best defense is your offense. You're going to need a team who can have a run game that can slow them down, keep the ball out of their hand, and truly control the line of scrimmage. You will need to skill guys on the backside. I mean, for the Creek teams that for years when Columbine upset Creek in the state championship, if you look at the skill guys making the big plays, that's going to have to happen to slow Legend down as well. I mean, there's not a defense built to stop someone who can put 50 yards on the ground and throw for 5 touchdowns. I mean, there's not a defense out there for that. However, there is a line of scrimmage. And if you control that and keep the time of possession on your side, and like with Valor, you look at the way they can control that line of scrimmage with those linemen going both ways. You have it. Creek, you see that skill guys on both sides. I mean, we talked about Jaden Fox, but did you see the speed on the defensive side and those tight ends and the D ends? I mean, there was sacks for days in that game. So it will be interesting to see how a coach approaches stopping Legend, because you have to stop Legend, not stop DJ.
Couple of other notes just from around the landscape. Falcons defense stepped up in a big way. Jess forced 5 turnovers to get a win over Rampart, a team that blew them out a couple years just last year. That D49 kind of surgence. How'd the Falcons look?
Yeah, so that was Thursday night, right, Dan? So they really started us out in week 0. And I wasn't at that game, but I had one of our photographers come back and tell me, like, it was just turnover after turnover. As you mentioned, their defense was unrelenting. Falcon, I believe, is a team that runs the ball quite a bit as well. And I expect them to do that a lot again this year. This was not a team that we were able to talk to before the season started. But we'll see how they start looking in the next few weeks. And if they continue to stack some weeks together, we'll definitely have to go out and talk to those boys out there and just kind of see what they're going to be all about this season.
We had several upsets throughout everything. If we're basing results on the Colorado Preps rankings from last week, Rickery and 6-man beat Shuroff 57-6. Rickery getting some votes in our Colorado Preps polls this week. McClave with a tough 8-man win over Sedgwick County, 16-12. That's a good one. Haxton, the defending 8-man champions, rolled 46-0 over Melrose, New Mexico's 8-man champion from last year. Colorado Springs Christian with a new coach, new quarterback, a lot of new makeup. They beat number 7 Holyoke 36-19. And Doug, that's a team that gets to open, or that now has to travel to Lyman, a team that we've both kind of pegged as one of the 1A teams to watch. Is there anything that you've noticed or you've heard out of Lyman? I know that's kind of your turf, that this could be a very big game for week 1.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to some of the other matchups we talked about in the show already. If you're going to beat a powerhouse, especially one that's maybe young, coming off a tough season or something, it's now. So you have a game under your belt. You go into Lyman, you play a team that didn't make it to the state finals last year and is kind of still finding themselves with that young roster. It's a good chance to pull off an upset. Now, will they? I think that's when you start talking, hey, okay, maybe this team is for real. But Michael Dwyer down in Lyman is he's essentially the Dave Logan of the Plains. I mean, their off-season program has those kids prepared, and I know for a fact that not making it to the state championship does not sit well from the minute that final gun sounds in December all the way up to the opening game this fall. So you can bet that they will have been prepared and not happy about the way their last season ended. So can a team go in and upset them? Sure. If they're going to, now's the time. But, I think this is a game to watch, and I can't wait to talk about it next week on the show.
And let me add something about the Lions, too. Something I noticed from their game last week was the pass rush. I mean, there was a couple series where I don't know much about Holyoke and what their offensive line looks, but a couple times it would be sack, tackle for loss, sack, punt away, So I think that's something to keep an eye on for the Lions this year.
Love it. Out west, Montrose continues to look like Montrose. Elijah Womack with 2 touchdowns. I think they rushed for all 5. They completed 1 pass through the course of the game as they rolled to a week 0 win over Durango. Down south, Pueblo West and Pueblo East are both winners. Little side note, Pueblo Central and Pueblo South played in a foundation game. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a glorified scrimmage, but they do keep score. It is, by all accounts, it has the appearance of an official game, just doesn't count in the standings or the selection and seating index or anything, but it was Pueblo South getting the win. So, Jess, I'm not sure. I want to say the game's earlier than later this year, but that Cannon game is shaping up to be a fun one. Pueblo West, of course, with their win over Loveland, they go into their big rivalry game, the Pigskin Classic against Pueblo County this week. Other than that, a lot of expected results. So as we move into this week, Jermaine, we're going to let you get out of here in just a minute, but what are a couple of games that you're really keeping an eye on that you're going to be excited to discuss with us next week?
I think we talked about it as that Arapahoe game. Very interesting to see how Arapahoe comes out and those that gauntlet down to the start of their season. I've been around a lot of those Arapahoe young men over the summertime at UPSWING. Obviously, it's right across the street. Not very biased, but I do love hard work. You can see the hard work there. We talked about this before we jumped on air, Dan. Like this is be a game where they want to come out and set the tone for their season. You talk about that gun going off last year when they lost that last game, that playoff game. They felt like they should have been playing in December up in Fort Collins. So, this would be a great game to come out and see. I want to see how they dictate the interior. They did lose a couple linemen, but their skill guys are just loaded. And seeing Brody come off that edge, I'm very excited to see if he can hit that 20 sacks I think he can put up this year. I'm looking to bring 20 sacks. So I'm very excited in the Arapahoe game.
Yeah, Warriors take on Mountain Vista. Speaking of Mountain Vista, cool story to come out with the Golden Eagles over the weekend. Braylon Looney, the daughter of head coach Garrett Looney, one of the stars of their flag football team, went 5 for 5 on extra points. Mountain Vista beats Liberty, a California team, by 4. So she played a role in that win. And we talked a lot of flag last week, and it's that rocket ship that is taking off in Colorado. Can a situation like that, is that only going to reinforce the football fandom from kids going into high school on both sides, the flag for the girls, because now they're seeing how that can kind of translate to the boys side, and obviously just the attention that it can bring to the boys game with something that Braylon is doing?
I think it absolutely can. I mean, Dan, we've both talked to plenty of high school flag football players, and these girls are just so much enjoying getting to learn the game, learning how to run an offense, learning the terminology behind the game. And so I think that, when it comes to watching football on Saturdays and Sundays, and thinking about their futures, they're like, I actually understand this now. And I think you told me this story that they were like at one of the high school boys football games and they were like calling out the plays and predicting what was going to happen out there. So I think the more that you get the girls in the game, the bigger that football will just become in our state. And I want to shout out TCA too, because talk about girls that are really learning like a real scheme. And their new head coach said that last year they kind of relied more on their athleticism, and this year it's more about, what matters in football, and it's that deception, it's misdirection, and it's kind of just finding ways to trick the defense. And so when I went out to their practice, it wasn't a lot of running drills, it was a lot of walking through an installation of different offenses. So really excited just to see how the sport will continue to grow in year 2.
Dougie, was that something that you got a kick of, just seeing what Braylon was able to do, and just especially with the dynamic of Garrett being the offensive coordinator for that flag team and them just kind of helping each other out from the family side? Yeah,
I mean, I obviously know a lot more about Garrett than I do Braylon, and Garrett was a tremendous athlete. I mean, I referenced the 99 Columbine team that won a state championship, the school's first, and Garrett was the quarterback of that same exact offense and was a dynamic playmaker. And you go all the way back to his high school days. I believe he went to college to play baseball. I mean, he was that well-rounded of an athlete. So I got to imagine that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But, I think it does bring to light that, these flag football teams have athletes up and down the rosters. And, I don't know that it's going to become the norm that we find girls that are playing for the boys team or kicking or whatever it might be. But I think the fact that you have an athlete like Braylon that can, really do everything on the field in the flag sense, and then come back over on a Friday night and kick for the boys team. I mean, these are some really, really impressive athletes.
And just for fun, we'll mention that Cade Looney, Garrett's freshman son, was the holder on those PATs. So it was a genuine family ordeal.
I really hope he doesn't miss a hold all season. That's going to be a tough night at home.
I mean, what's worse, him missing the hold or her missing the kick?
Or maybe dad calls an option. I don't know. I mean, you have all kinds of reasons to fight over dinner,
How about a fake with Braylon throwing a 2-point conversion to Cade?
That would be ideal. Yeah, that's a celebration at the Looney house for sure.
Looking ahead to this week, I mean, guys, week 1 is going to be packed full of fun games to watch. Meade, Pueblo South. Jess, I'm going to try and make my way down to Dutch Clark Stadium to see the last year's 3A runner-up take on Pueblo South. Of course, Ryan Goddard and Meade coach Jason Clatter are good buddies, so that'll be a good one. Grandview taking on Legend. We'll see if the Wolves can slow down DJ Bordeaux. Both those games are on Thursday. Friday, we move into an awesome slate. Green Mountain, Windsor. Thunder Ridge with new coach Jay Madden. They'll take on Columbine. Ralston Valley against Erie. The Pigskin Classic between Pueblo County, Pueblo West. Jermaine, Mountain Vista, Arapahoe, the one that you mentioned. Ponderosa and Palmer Ridge, which is always a fun early season 4A battle. We go to the smaller schools. West Grand takes on Sanford. That's an 8-man top 10. We have a 1A top 10 game. CSCS taking on Lyman. And then, of course, in the Jeffco realm, where we'll probably have coverage from Dennis Ployce at coloradopreps.com, Dakota Ridge and Chatfield. So lots to look forward to. Jermaine, before we let you get out of here, tell us what's going on at Upswing this week that has you geeked, ready to go to work on a Monday.
I'm excited about our Alpha program. Our Alpha Series youth program. It's Alpha Youth Series. Is been around for about 20 years now, and it is a faith-based curriculum, giving youth opportunities to learn stronger faith and just having the conversations. So we're starting that September 5th, and we expect our Friday night lights. It'll be held once a month on Fridays at our facility. We're expecting about 100 youth to be present, and just to come and hear, connect and have a conversation and be in the presence of their interest in faith. Once again, it's Alpha Youth Series. It's been out for a while, and we're very excited to get going. I mean, as a former athlete, I can tell you, Dan, there's so many young people that are fighting every day to be student athletes, but at the end of it, they have to be just regular people. And so at Upswing, we want to make sure we're creating that opportunity and that narrative as well. For me, I had to hang up, my football cleats very early. I went on to my track spikes, held them until the body said no more. But then you become someone, right? When I say become someone, the who you are steps in front of what you are. And that's what the youth series does, is us having a conversation where student athletes can come and become student athletes, and regular students can come and find a narrative of where they want to become. I mean, where they want to head towards to become. And we're very excited to have it September 5th over at Upswing at our location in Centennial. We're starting that at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So you can find it on our website as well, upswingfoundation.org. We're just very excited to get it going.
Awesome. We'll hear more about that next week. And as always, man, we're going to talk some football with you, some fun games on tap to recap next week.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jermaine. Before we get going, we want to give a huge shout out to a longtime partner of Colorado Preps, Gordon Insurance, an independent agency with the customer in mind. They offer a wide variety of insurance products: home, auto, business, workman's comp, farm, and ranch. Serving the needs of Eastern Colorado. Learn more from Tim Anderson and his team at GordonINS.com, with locations in Calhan, Flagler, Lyman, Sterling, and Kit Carson. that we want to transition to that we didn't get to chat about in the preview last week, but Max Preps released its list of top volleyball players in the state. Colorado, of course, is a big volleyball state, as we know. We talked about some of the high-level D1 girls that we saw at the Coliseum for the state tournament last year. This year, Jess, this is someone that we'll probably see a lot of. Cheyenne Mountain's Landry Roberts was named Max Preps' best volleyball player in the state. Wow. A Texas Tech commit. She's only a junior. So we get 2 years of Landry, an outside hitter who I'm never going to set up for a block in front of that net if Landry's hitting the ball. The Red-tailed Hawks opened up their season with a 3-1 loss to Legend. I guess the one thing that I want to talk about from a volleyball standpoint, how much of a team game is that? I mean, we saw last year's Gatorade Player of the Year was Chloe Ellerton from Valor Christian. Doug, you've watched enough of this in your time as the commissioner's son. How much of a team dynamic is this sport? And even if you have that best player, what else do you need to see from a team that can put it into state championship contention?
I mean, it's a huge dynamic. I think volleyball is probably an underrated sport in terms of the team, chemistry, strategy, coaching, all these things. I mean, you can have the best player in the state along the front line, but if you don't have someone to set her up, it's not going to matter. So I think that's everything. I mean, obviously, these stars have really shined in Colorado, especially in the last, say, 5 to 10 years. I mean, the state's produced a ton of big-time Division I volleyball talent. And obviously Landry's one of them. They lost the season opener. I don't expect to see that a whole lot more this season. But yeah, it's a lot like the football. There's early woes for even some of the best teams in the state.
Olivia Ewing is another girl in that conversation for top player. She had 15 kills. Fossil Ridge opened its season up with a 5-set win over Rock Canyon. Another notable result was Grandview beating Mountain Vista in 5 sets on Friday. Dougie, I think those Golden Eagles missed Bridget Malone.
Yeah, a little bit.
Of course, the daughter of former Nuggets coach Mike Malone, who's out at the University of North Carolina right now. As we transition over into this one might be a little bit of a discussion. Jess, I gave Doug a heads up. Not so much you. I want to put you on the spot. But as we look at boys golf, Braden Forte of Cherokee Trail has had an outstanding season. He shot 64 last week at Fox Hollow as the Cougars racked up a big win in a league tournament win. But with today's round at City Park in Denver, that puts him at 5 rounds, and he will be sitting in that top 10 in the I Wanamaker rankings. State Golf Field is now filled with the top 84 with four kids from a school max from the I Wanamaker rankings, with regionals no longer a thing. So in theory, and not in theory, by the time his round is over today, Braden could not pick up a club until the state tournament, and which is still a month away. We're about halfway through the golf season. I'm starting to wonder if, while the intentions of this execution and getting rid of regionals and going by a ranking is good at heart, could there be an unintended consequence of seeing less and less participation from these boys golfers? I think Braden will compete in every tournament that they're playing in. I don't think that's a question, but it just leaves that door open. Is that what you really want from the high school side?
I mean, this is my first time hearing about this. We don't cover too much golf, just with the time that it's being played and, our schedules and TV. But if I'm him, I'm not walking into that feeling too comfortable if I'm not playing consistently. Golf's
right.
One of those. Golf is a tricky game, no matter how far ahead you are in the standings. There's a lot that can change. There's a lot that can happen to your swing, especially as such a young player. So if I'm him, I'm still playing every tournament. It sounds like you're pretty confident that he will too. So hopefully that's not the case. But yeah, I think it would be smart for these guys to continue participating week by week.
It's a little bit of that Missy Franklin approach from a few years ago, Dougie. I mean, I wasn't working in the preps world then, so you might have a little bit more of an insight, because back then we were working on putting her on the cover of the magazine as our sports person of the year 2 times in a row. But she obviously competed at the state swim meets, but I know from what I remember hearing is she wasn't competing throughout the full season. So the specialization of these individualized sports, I know that Chas has made a big push to make sure that the kids are staying involved and staying competitive in those. But I'm not a fan of getting rid of regionals and going by these I want to make her rankings, and this is one reason why. But is there a way that you can see that maybe we can kind of meet in the middle when it comes to a situation like this? I have my thoughts, but I just want to hear if there's anything going on in your head.
I think anytime that you have a major change to the rules or the structure of a high school sport or a season, there's going to be some unforeseen consequences that typically would get addressed the next time that, that committee can make changes. So if this system is imperfect, I would imagine that there will be some tweaks to it next time around. That said, I always think that there are exceptions. And you brought up Missy Franklin. Obviously Braden is playing exceptionally well. So I think those kind of things they're tough to account for. I mean, it's rare that you have an Olympic caliber athlete.
She is very much an extreme example.
Yeah, swimming for her high school team. Is she going to still be the best athlete in the state when it comes to the state finals? Probably. So it really doesn't matter, at least in my mind, if she's swimming every week of the season. I think with the sport of golf, Jessica, mentioned it. I don't think you just take weeks off and come back and expect to be playing your best. I think in golf, this kind of system might allow for some opportunities for a kid like maybe he's playing great, but just something a little bit off with his whatever, his short game, his driver, his, whatever it is. There's not much off when you're shooting those kind of scores. But in theory, if you're that far ahead in the standings, it allows you to take some chances, see where your flaws are, see what you need to work on. And obviously that's a hypothetical, but I think that, when it really comes down to formatting and determining how you crown a state champ, there's no perfect system. There just isn't. I mean, if you want to go to the regional model, you could in theory say, hey, Braden played the best golf of anyone in the entire state the entire year. On the flip side, he choked when it came to the match that would send him to state. I hope that never happens to anybody, but it's possible. So that system in and of itself is imperfect. So I think that, there's no perfect solution. I don't think anybody ever sets out to make a system that's unfair. I think lots of systems are tweaked over time. I mean, college football is a great example. I think how many years do we see in a row where the same exact system to determine the playoff, or back in the day, the national champion or whatever, they're always changing because there's always flaws. So I would expect that if this kind of extreme scenario plays out and is perceived or received negatively, there'll be some changes to it. But again, I think you always are going to have some exceptions when you have exceptional performances. If this is a regular year and you're not having someone that's as red hot as Braden, maybe we're not talking about it as much.
And I brought Braden up as an example, but it's actually, this is going to be a lot more common than just him. He's not one example. I know Hayden Dorsey, top 10 finisher from Manitou Springs. He's already won 2 or 3 tournaments this year. He's sitting inside that top 10. So when they go down to walking stick in Pueblo on Wednesday, that's going to be his 5th round. He can sit out. This is going to be something that you can see. And again, I don't expect any of these kids to do this. I was having this discussion with Windsor Athletic Director Eric Johnson last week or 2 weeks ago. And I love EJ because his response is always, what's your solution? And I think if we find this maybe a hybrid model of, can we exempt players and teams who win league tournaments or finish top 5 in league tournaments, and we fill out a good portion of the state field as the season goes on, and then you can cut your regional tournament load down so that you have course availability, that you have rules officials to 2 regional tournaments per classification. You fill out the rest of the field that way. I haven't looked at the actual numbers to see exactly how that would play out in terms of what you would need going into that regional, but just seems like a reasonable solution in my mind. And I think talking about it offhand to some ADs, I think they kind of feel the same way. But it's just interesting. Golf is halfway through its season, which is crazy to think because football, volleyball, soccer, everything else got going on Thursday, and we're already talking about the midway point of one of our fall sports, which means state championship is, just around the corner. So just something that's rattling around in my head that thought I'd bring up. We still have a ton more going on. The Cheyenne Mountain Stampede, the pre-state cross-country meet was run over the weekend. Dylan Blair from Eagle Valley and Emery Schwalm from Heritage came away with the big wins in the championship races. A lot of competitive teams. We didn't see a Niwot there. We didn't see a Mountain Vista there. Is there an advantage to not going to the site of the state meet and trying to and just waiting for your team to qualify and get there and seeing it for the first time in a year?
I don't know if there's an advantage. I mean, I think, it kind of goes to the same rules that we're talking about with other sports. The best kids are always going to win. I mean, I don't think that there's, and if there's two groups of best kids, or in this case, runners, they're going to all be right there. And I don't necessarily know that there's an advantage. Is there an advantage? I never ran cross country, so I don't know, how big of an advantage that I can't think that it would hurt to be at that site. But the same rule applies. And I think this applies in high school sports more than anything. Best kids are always going to win.
Jess, I don't think it was a Friday, football Friday, so I know that everyone's stretched a little thin, but from what you've seen or your staff has seen when you guys cover cross country, how important can that be? Just getting the lay of the land, understanding a little bit, because for those who don't know, the North Penrose Event Center and Bear Creek Park in that area, there's some tough hills, there's some tough terrain that can take some wear and tear. So even if you're a team like Mountain Vista who wins state and you're taking a freshman who hasn't seen it a lot, can that put them at a little bit of a disadvantage?
I think that's what I was going to bring up, is just how old is your team? And, talking about best kids are going to win. The kids that you're projecting to win, how experienced are they? Have they been there before? If this is going to be new to them, then it becomes a bigger deal of let's get these guys out there and show them the lay of the land. But if this is somewhere that they've already competed and they kind of know what they're walking into, then, maybe it makes a little bit more sense to not show up for that.
We'll find out. I mean, state cross country, I think is November 1st. So weather will hopefully be a little bit cooler for those kids. Boys soccer, another sport that has gotten going in the last week. Dougie, Cherry Creek, Air Academy, Holy Family, all defending state champions, all open the season with a win. We know about, there's always roster turnover. Cherry Creek, I'm sure you know of, because your friend Trent Werner has some boys that were on last year's state title team. But how much momentum does a team coming off a state title need and get by winning that first game?
I don't know if it's momentum that carries over as much as it is assurance that they're still the same team. I mean, you graduate the player of the year in Cole Warner and his brother, who's not too far behind, in Reed, and a few others to go with them. There's, that's a really good program. There's a lot of confidence, obviously, to every team, but I think there's always a little doubt when you lose your best players. I think as much as you could say, hey, state championship carries momentum into the next season, I think a win in week one, maybe momentum isn't the right word, but it's assurance. It's, hey, we can still play. We still have a roster that compete. There's kids that were ready to play yet last year. They just didn't get a chance because there was really good players in front of them, but they're ready to go. I think winning in week one is big for a state champ, because it tells everybody on that roster, hey, we're fine. We're back. We're right in the mix again.
Jess, the Cadettes score 7 in a win over Falcon to open their year. A mixture of seniors, sophomores, and juniors all net those goals. We've seen Air Academy as a dominant soccer program for really the last decade. So is this going to, do you think are we looking at another run of several state championships in the next several years for the Cadets?
Of course, I hope so. I mean, we're going to have to go out and talk to them and kind of see what their season's looking like. But it's good to hear you talk about, contributions from every level, that obviously points to a very strong program moving forward. And so, yeah, we're got to get up there and talk to them soon before things really get rolling.
Yep. A couple closing notes here before we get going. Softball season, of course, is underway. The one that jumped out at me was to open the season, Wellington scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 7th to get a rare win over Eaton. And when I say rare, I mean rare for anyone to beat Eaton. The Reds committed 8 errors in the loss, but they've bounced back. They won 4 straight games since. Valor Christian's Kendall Ferguson, who led the nation in home runs last year. When I looked at the start of the weekend, she had walked twice and got hit by a pitch in her debut. It's starting to wonder if teams just aren't throwing to her. She's 3 for 14 on the year, slow start, but I don't expect that to sustain. Lastly, and I
wouldn't pitch to her either, just for the record.
No, it's like the Walker Martin effect from a couple years ago. Eaton's standout hitter, who's now playing, I think single A ball or double A ball for the San Francisco Giants. He had hit a home run in 10 straight games, and then everyone got upset at Rez Christian for not throwing to him. Like,
hey, they're smart, and then there's there's being competitive and there's being smart. So I would go with being smart.
I want to throw a quick thanks to Widefield Athletic Director Pat Blumen for the way that I think we're going to end the show every week. He sent me a text about a girl who is on the verge of doing something historic for the school, and this is just a good place to really look at those moments and just shout out performances and highlights that we see from around the state every week. So I've listed 3. If you guys have any off the top of your head, feel free to throw them in. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but Montezuma Cortez's Tessa Mercedes Jackson had 23 kills in just 3 sets in the Panthers season opening win. She had 7.7 kills per set, obviously, in that. Vista Ridge quarterback Colton Kamba. Jessica, you saw this one. He threw for 117 yards and 2 touchdowns as they beat Columbine. Like, that's not an easy thing to do. Right. This kid beat Columbine. And then Arvada West softballs, Mackenzie Gallegos, 2 games, went 6 for 6 with 2 doubles, a triple, and 4 runs scored. Through last weekend, there were 2 players in the state with a batting average of 1,000, and Mackenzie was one of them. So aside from that, what are we seeing looking forward this week in the prep sports world? We talked about some of the big football games coming up, but anything else on anyone else's radar?
Maybe not specific to this week, Dan, but just since I don't know and I'll be on with you guys again, I mentioned TCA and their flag football team. Their quarterback, Kelsey Peterson, she's also only a junior. Talked to her last week, and she's just an impressive athlete, multiple sport athlete. She is just loving diving into this new offense there at TCA. They were the 4A state runner-up last year with a new head coach in year 2, so there's definitely going to be a lot of unknowns, but she talked about, just taking the season week by week and, game by game to get back to where they want to be. And so I think they feel a lot better, more comfortable this year, just in terms of, knowing the game and throwing some new wrinkles into the game as well. So looking forward to see what Kelsey Peterson does there for the Titans.
Yeah, I think for me, and I'll go back to football, but I want to see what Mike Sanford's team does in week 2. Do they keep up that same kind of momentum? They might even be more dynamic if they catch some better weather. And then I also want to touch back to what Jermaine was talking about. Let's see what Arapahoe does. That's a team that, like he said, felt like they left a little on the table last season, but we know they have one of the state's best defenses. Can their offense keep up and kind of put them or keep them up in that top 10, top 5 kind of team? I think they have the athletes to do it, but, we didn't get a chance to see them this week. Week 1's up for them too. So I think those are the 2 that I want to see heading into next week.
Heading into the weekend, be sure to visit coloradopreps.com for your football scoreboard. We'll be tracking all the games Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We'll have stories, photo galleries, everything you want. You can also find that information on the Colorado Preps app, which is powered by Ford. I mentioned with our friend Sean Drotar on Friday, Doug, that Jaden Fox looked like a Ford Mustang when he put his foot in the turf and went for 94 yards, that Cherry Creek touchdown. In Southern Colorado, be sure to watch Jessica Mendoza on Friday nights with all of your football coverage from there. I'm sure we'll have action from highlights from Meade and Pueblo South on Thursday, along with Pigskin Classic on Friday and everything else in between. The new issue of Mile High Sports Magazine should be in our hands, I want to say within 24 hours, Dougie. That's kind of the hope.
Yeah, man. We'll be talking about a lot of those guys, as I mentioned, that we featured photo shoot at UPSWING. Our good partners there, also a fantastic place to take photos. So we'll get it in everybody else's hands too. But a lot of those kids will be watching throughout the fall.
And then, of course, stay tuned to milehighsports.com for more general sports coverage. Jess, who do the CSU Rams open up with? You're a proud CSU alum, so who do the Rams have?
Don't ask me about the Rams. Oh my gosh, I'm way too.
They're
focused on
poised for a
Air
good
Force,
year.
CSU.
Why would we not want to ask you about the Rams?
I know. I'm a bad fan. I've been a bad fan the past 2 years. Yeah, that's my alma mater. But I don't know. I don't know why, Dan. I think I have a hard time with, not that they haven't done some good things in the past few years, but I've just been a really bad fan lately. So I couldn't even tell you. I know it's crazy.
I think they're actually
they open at Washington.
I think they're going to be one of the best, one of the best teams in the state. There's only 4, but anytime you come back with a senior quarterback that was pretty highly regarded, the last 2 years.
Isn't he a junior?
I think of him as a senior because he's been playing now for two years, I guess, as a starter. So you're right. I misspoke there, but anytime you come back with a guy that's been starting for 2 years, that's already good. You had a shot to do something special.
Rams are at Washington. CU Buffs open at home against Georgia Tech on Friday night. They're stealing the limelight a little bit from our high school kids, but that's okay. We'll forgive them. Broncos off, but they'll be back in action, which will keep the both of you busy in about 2 weeks. So we're heading into a great time of year for sports, especially in the preps world. So Jess, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We hope to have you on soon. You've got to keep me a little bit more posted on your schedule.
Will do.
Dougie, it's either going to be next week or probably the week after, but we'll have you back. And thanks everyone for tuning in. This has been the Colorado Prep Show presented by UPSWING.
All right. Sounds good, man. Thanks, Jessica.
Thanks, guys.